Everything you do only says you gotta figure it out.
Hey, what's up guys, George Lyons here. Welcome back to the Soccernomics YouTube channel, and today we are talking about Burnley Football Club. Yep, that is right. Burnley Football Club are in an absolute mess at the moment, a bit of strife to say the least. Of course, they're at the bottom of the Premier League at the moment. They've played the least amount of games, so they've got that up their sleeves, but the reality is they're not scoring and they are really leaking a lot of goals and they're running out of time. Their squad is aging. It's not looking good for Burnley Football Club, but there's more than what meets the eye to this situation. Of course, they've just sold their star striker, Chris Wood. What the hell are they thinking, selling him to a relegation rival as well in Newcastle United for not that much money for what it's worth to stay in the Premier League, £25 million, but we'll get into that as well later on. But yeah, like I said, there's a lot more than meets the eye with this situation at Burnley Football Club. I'll get into it why relegation could be absolutely devastating for this club. Moving forward, could be the start of something very, very dark for Burnley Football Club in the near future. But before we do get into that, guys, of course, I just want to let you know if you are into this sort of content, so football content, football finance, football economics, that sort of stuff, and this is definitely the channel for you, so I can't encourage you enough to hit that subscribe button down below. Also, be sure to leave a like button for us as well, guys, just to help support this channel. We're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers before the end of the month, so that would be fantastic if you can do that to help us be the best we can possibly be. But apart from that, guys, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy the video. So let's get something straight here, guys. Burnley Football Club are by no means a massive club. They're by no means an elite club. A lot of football clubs go through ups and downs. There's some great ages, and then there's some dark ages. And Burnley Football Club seem to be a club who've really, really pushed their luck when it comes to staying in the Premier League with the amount of money that they haven't invested into the club and the style of play that they've been playing as well. It seems so unconventional for elite top division football. But they have defied the odds, and it's not like they've been scraping by the skin of their teeth. They have achieved a 7th place finish, which also got them into the Europa League. Absolutely insane for Burnley Football Club to be playing Europa League. They also got a 10th place finish as well, ever since they got promoted to the Premier League in 2016. So they definitely deserve to be in the Premier League, and they're not just making up the numbers here. But obviously that doesn't last forever. What must go up must come down, especially when it's not one of those top 6 or whatever you would call them these days, football clubs in the Premier League. And unfortunately this season it's looking as if it's Burnley's luck running out. They're currently bottom of the Premier League. Yes, they've got plenty of games in hand, but they are really struggling to score goals. They're leaking goals as well. And what's not going to help the situation is the fact that they've just sold their star striker, 30-year-old New Zealand international Chris Wood, to a relegation rival in Newcastle United. Yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it? But yeah, apparently this was a release clause that has been activated by Newcastle United, so the club really were hopeless in this. There are actually some reports, though, that the release clause wasn't actually going to come into place until the end of the season. So if that ends up being true, my God, what are Burnley's owners doing? But yeah, either way, they're without their star striker in a time where they really need goals, and relegation is not looking very good. They've just strengthened a relegation rival as well. So pretty worrying times. Look, on paper, this deal seems fine. It actually seems like a really good deal for Burnley because they're receiving £25 million for a player who's just turned 30 years old. He's not getting any younger. He's only scored 3 goals this season as well. So yeah, look, seems like an absolute steal for Burnley. They could always use that money, reinvest in younger talents, maybe invest in someone like Ben Brereton Diaz or was it Kevin Nisbet, I think his name is, for Hibernian. Someone like that of a similar stature to Chris Wood. Yes, completely different players. But there's a couple of issues with this deal. The first thing is the fact that this is in the middle of a season where Burnley need to get goals. Not only that, but also Burnley are bottom of the league, really facing a uphill task to try and get out of the relegation zone. So it's not really an attractive prospect for other players to come to Burnley Football Club unless it's a absolute step up from where they already are. The next issue is trying to find a suitable replacement that is actually available in the January transfer window. The January window is notorious for being known as the panic buy window. The reason being for that is because when a club actually ends up signing a player midway through the season, it's because they need something. For example, they need goals to get out of a relegation scrap. Clubs are only going to let go of their assets who are scoring goals, performing very well, if they get paid a premium for them, generally overpaying. And £25 million is not that much for someone who's going to score you enough goals to get you out of a relegation battle. And the third issue is who is going to be able to replicate or better Chris Wood's output instantly. to get them out of this relegation scrap, to get them out of this hole where no one else is really scoring besides Maxwell Cornet, who is well overachieving his expected goals. Okay, look, Chris Wood is not exactly a glamorous name, and to be honest, Newcastle United fans, I bet you're probably feeling a bit underwhelmed with this signing, especially given the fact that you've been linked with like Aubameyang, all these sort of players as well, these glamorous world-class players, and you actually go for Chris Wood. But the reality is, Chris Wood is a very solid and reliable transfer. And I'll explain to you in a minute, because look at his stats, guys. Since arriving at Burnley in 2017 from Leeds United, Chris Wood has actually scored 10 goals in his first 2 seasons, 14 goals the next, and 12 goals last season. With 3 goals so far this season, that adds up to be 49 goals in 144 games, which is actually roughly about 1 in every 3 games, which is not that bad at all, to be honest. In fact, only 9 other players have scored more than Chris Wood since his arrival in 2017. That is Mo Salah, Harry Kane, Jamie Vardy, Raheem Sterling, Heung-min Son, Sadio Mane, Sergio Aguero, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, and Alexander Lacazette. That's quite a list to be involved in. It's also worth pointing out the level of consistency that Chris Wood is coming out with here, because he's scoring double figures every single season. Now, of course, this is no Mo Salah numbers here or anything like that, but the fact that he's scoring double figures every single season is absolutely unreal. In fact, only 9 players have actually scored 10 plus goals in the past 4 seasons. He's also been Burnley's Players Player of the Season, which may seem like nothing much, but that just goes to show what his teammates think of him. That just goes to show what sort of a presence he has in the dressing room. This is someone who, look, he's not known for getting into the spotlight or anything like that, but that is not a bad thing. He's there to do a job. And if anything, that is a sign of absolute professionalism. That is a sign of someone who's a great role model and someone who, Newcastle United could do with in the dressing room. He's got vast experience at being in relegation battles, getting that consistent level of results. No matter what the results are, he is there to do a job, and he's been successful with it. So £25 million, all of a sudden, doesn't seem like a bad thing for Newcastle United. If anything, it just doesn't make sense why Burnley would let go of someone like that. On the other hand, he is starting to get on a bit. I mean, he has only just turned 30 years old, and 30 is still a prime age, but he's one of the most expensive 30-year-olds in Premier League history. He's also not doing that great. He's only scored 3 goals so far this season from 17 games at the time of signing for Newcastle United. His expected goals per 90 has gone from 0.48 in the 1920 season and 0.44 in last season to 0.25 or 0.29 actually so far this season. So that's a massive drop-off. And in fact, he's only averaging a shot on target of 0.7 per 90 as well. Just not good enough so far. So suddenly, £25 million doesn't seem that bad. So yeah, you could look at this deal. You can see the positives and the negatives in either side. You can see the logic in selling him, not selling him. Personally, I don't think they should have sold him just yet. Obviously, they can't really do much if it was a release clause, but they could have just said to him, look, can you please just wait until the end of the season? Because our strike force is pretty low at the moment. Ashley Barnes is out injured. Matej Vidra is out injured. Maxwell Cornet is at the AFCON. You've only really got Jay Rodriguez as a fit striker at the moment in a time where you really, really need goals. So that is a problem. This is also just part of an underlying issue at Burnley that not a lot of people are aware of. There was a lot of highlights about it when they got bought out by the new owners. The new owners, there's just something not right with Burnley, and it can prove to be devastating if they get relegated. Burnley were bought out by US investors ALK Capital last December for a reported fee of around £150 million for an 84% stake of the club. Now, it's not the owners that are the issue here. It is the way that they actually finance this takeover that's a bit of a red flag. Now, although it was never actually disclosed by ALK Capital, numerous sources, including The Athletic, have said that about £55 million of the club's own cash that they have on their balance sheet was used to pay the previous owners for their shares. And they also borrowed about £80 million to cover the rest of it, only using about £15 million of their own money to purchase the club. Now, debt is not an uncommon financial tool for purchasing assets. However, in football, it's not very popular, nor is it very safe, especially given the volatility of unpredictability of the sport, the performances, and the future cash flow of the club. The £80 million loan from MSD Capital doesn't actually have a disclosed interest rate, but what they usually charge is about 9 to 12% per annum on their loans to football clubs, which means that Burnley are going to be charged and paying an interest per year of £7.2 million minimum. That is what they'll be paying. And what makes things even weirder and a bit more worrying as well about this loan deal is that the loan is securitized against the club's assets. So Turf Moor, the players, everything like that. So if ALK Capital are unable to make a payment for this loan to MSD Capital, then MSD Capital can actually liquidize and sell off the club's assets to be able to finance the repayments. Bit worrying, isn't it? When you think of it like that, obviously that's something like what a mortgage is for someone. If they can't make the repayments, then they'll repossess the house. But for a club who were just over a year ago debt-free with over £40 million in the bank, that's quite a bit of a turnaround, a bit of a risk, isn't it? Especially when you're paying, £7.2 million a year in interest. Obviously, that's just the first year. Once the principal goes down, you'll be paying less interest. But that's a lot of money just to be paying in interest every single season. And this just goes to show how things can get ugly very quick. As I said before, Burnley are traditionally a pretty small club. They're no commercial giant like Manchester United, who, funnily enough, were also bought out through a leveraged buyout, notoriously by the Glazers. However, Manchester United don't have to worry about relegation. They don't have to worry about making money. They make hundreds of £millions a year. So that is fine. Burnley, on the other hand, relegation is a very big possibility. Year on year, they are facing relegation, just skipping it. And this is where the issue is, because there's so many reasons why relegation could prove to be costly for Burnley Football Club. Around 83% of Burnley's total revenue year on year comes from Premier League TV broadcasting revenues. 83%. Now think about that for a second. When a club gets relegated from the Premier League, there is a huge drop in broadcasting revenues. So they've introduced parachute payments to try and cushion the fall, they say. So even just getting relegated the first season, you lose about 45% of the Premier League TV broadcasting revenues. So you only receive 55%. That means that just from that one season, Burnley's total revenue could drop about 35%. It drops year on year. So if Burnley don't get promoted again in the next 3 years, they could lose about 75% of their entire total revenue so far. That is a huge drop. That is ridiculous. That could really put them in a serious issue financially. Not only that, but the £150 million valuation of Burnley Football Club also comes into the consideration of future revenue streams of being a Premier League club. So if they get relegated and fail to get promoted again, that valuation is going to absolutely plummet. So do you see how this could be a serious issue? Because they still have to pay the 9% interest on that £80 million loan every single year. So with the threat of relegation looming quite large over Burnley at the moment, it's right to ask the questions: why on earth are the owners allowing their star striker to leave midway through the season for only £25 million? Like, okay, the release clause means that they're pretty much hopeless. They can't do anything, but they can offer Wood a better contract. That is the way that they can get him to stay. The second thing is, they haven't been scoring very many goals anyway. So they should at least be going into this transfer window with some targets in mind. They need goals desperately. So why do they not appear to have a plan involved of any transfer targets? So far, they've been linked with Andy Carroll and Christian Benteke. I'm sorry, but those guys are not going to match Chris Wood in terms of his goals output or his presence in the dressing room. It just isn't. Look, so the situation could have many explanations. It could be that Burnley will go out and sign somebody eventually. But what it appears to be right now is that the club, the owners, have just accepted the reality that they're probably going to go down, which is going to see a 45% drop in TV broadcasting revenues, about 35% of their entire total revenues. They've got a debt that they have to pay off. So £25 million bid for a 30-year-old aging striker who they probably needed to go and replace eventually anyway, that could help cover the repayments for at least, 2 seasons? 2 seasons. And in the meantime, they can just replace him with cheap, free signings. Someone like Andy Carroll, maybe even like Jermaine Defoe, who seems to be available as well at the moment. They're not the same as Chris Wood, but hey, they've just got someone there to make up the numbers and hopefully get some goals that might see them stay in the Premier League so they can regroup or get relegated, but at least it's not going to cost them money for the club. Like, that's how I see it at the moment. Obviously, there could be many other reasons. They could, like I said, just go out and buy someone tomorrow. It could be completely different. And the reason I bring that up is because Burnley's transfer history in recent times, or since they've ever been in the Premier League, has been quite conservative, to say the least. They're not someone who splashes out on players. Okay, they deviated from the trend in the summer, which was great for Maxwell Cornet. He seemed to be a revelation. I think he's the club's top goal scorer, everything like that. So there is hope, because £25 million can get you a decent striker. It can still get you a very decent striker. The only problem is, it would have been very decent to have £25 million at the start of the season, not midway through the season, because, like I said, you're going to have to pay a premium to get a player who's willing, who is able to score 10 plus goals in a season. Even if he is in the division below, he'd have to score, 15, 20 goals to be able to do a decent job in the Premier League. So think about it like this. Would Blackburn Rovers sell Ben Brereton Diaz for £25 million halfway through the season when they have a very real opportunity of getting promoted to the Premier League? No. It doesn't make sense to sell him now, does it? It makes sense to maybe sell him in the summer, especially if they don't get promoted. But if they get promoted, they need Ben Brereton Diaz to be the guy scoring the goals. And the payoff would be massive to get into the Premier League. Like I said, it's worth £100 million for a club to get promoted to the Premier League. It's definitely worth it to hold on, keep Ben Brereton Diaz. If they get promoted, great. They still keep Ben Brereton Diaz and £100 million instead of just getting £25 million and then they're pretty much accepting defeat of not getting promoted to the Premier League. It's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough for Burnley. So investment into the first team of Burnley may not be to the extent as what ALK Capital chairman Alan Pace intended. This literally looks like the club are cashing in on Chris Wood to look after themselves financially if they do get relegated. That is kind of what it looks like at the moment. We'll see what their intentions are in the transfer window, but you can see that they're probably not wanting to panic buy in and pay over the odds, especially when they're in such a deep financial position as what they are. They have to pay off this loan, so they're not going to pay over the odds for someone who might not get the goals for them. But you can see why relegation could be so devastating for this club. I can't stress enough how devastating this could be. Now, is there some hope? Fortunately, yes. It doesn't come in the form of short-term hope, but Burnley Football Club, ever since they got promoted to the Premier League in 2016, have really focused on improving their academy. They changed it from a Category 3 academy to a Category 1 academy, which I think is only one of 25 clubs that are able to have done that in the EPPP, so the Elite Player Performance Plan. They've got a great setup there, so hopefully with their resources and their coaching skills, everything like that, they'll be able to produce their own talents. Should they even get relegated, it just produces this pipeline of players, of hopefully quality players that can help them financially. Just think, if you don't have to pay for players, you've got your own players coming through the door, selling them on for huge profits or having them as a first team player. That could be fantastic. But unfortunately, I don't see anything short term positive at the moment for Burnley Football Club. I know I've seemed pretty pessimistic, but I'm just looking at it financially. I don't know. I really don't know. Unfortunately, Burnley, look, they've only got themselves to blame at the moment. They have really not invested into the squad that heavily in the past, 5 years. They've allowed their entire squad to age. A lot of players, influential players, important players, are having their contracts slowly run out. You think of James Tarkowski, whose contract is running out at the end of the season. He's a big player for this club, and he might end up going in January as well, so the club can recoup some money at least. Yeah, Burnley have got a lot on their hands. They've got a lot of rebuilding to do, and relegation could prove to be extremely costly, but it looks like that's where they're heading. So I'm sorry, Burnley fans. I wish this was a positive video. Hopefully, you guys can sort something out. It might even be that you'll sort it out. Sean Dyche is a great manager. If you guys get relegated, he'll probably leave, because I'm sure he'll have plenty of people after him. But yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts, Burnley fans. Even if you're not a Burnley fan, let me know what you think. Who you think Burnley should sign? Who do you think Burnley need at this moment in time? Do you think you'll get relegated? Do you think you'll survive? All those sort of things. Put it in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's video, guys, be sure to hit the like button for us. That'd be fantastic. Also, I said it at the start of the video, but we are trying to hit 1,000 subscribers. So if you like this sort of content, you like this video, be sure to hit the subscribe button for us. Most of our viewers aren't actually subscribed, so go ahead and do it for us, guys. But yeah, apart from that, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you very soon.
Got down and hope it comes back around, cause I still just feel like I'm gonna keep running in circles till we find out what we need. Is it just